Good afternoon, guys. I'm Tom Burch from Projection Artworks. For those of you that don't know about us, we spent 10 years redefining the limits of what you can do with projection. I'm joined here today by Justin Halls from Optoma, who manufacture projectors specifically for the retail sector, and Rob Hollands from creative and brand experience agency Anthem. So today we're going to talk to you about the new opportunities in retail and how we delivered bottom line sales increases across a major supermarket. Over to you, Rob.
Thanks, Tom. So before we begin, thank you everyone for coming and joining us today. I know it's lunchtime, so we've got a quick, snappy presentation. It could be War and Peace, but we're gonna keep it punchy. I get to do the good job of giving you a bit of an introduction and a setup and some insights into why us, the projection guys, Nestle, started off on this journey together. And the first thing to tell you is a really good one, particularly in this type of environment, is that bricks and mortar stores are really important. They're particularly important at the minute as consumers are starting to look back into physical spaces. People want to have an experience again. And we're starting to see some of the big dominant e-commerce retailers like Amazon that were the fear of many retailers maybe 10 years ago are actually starting to look at opening their own physical spaces. So we've seen Amazon in Seattle, we've seen Made.com or more closer to home open up a concept store in Brighton. So first off in our journey with Nestle, we understood that a bricks and mortar physical space is really important for us. The other thing that we know is that we're not just selling products, and all of the companies we work with, whether it's Unilever or Nestle or the many others, we know now that actually we're trying to sell something more than a product. It's not about commodities. We're into an economy, and an experience economy. So we're trying to sell more than products. We're trying to deliver experiences. And one thing we know really well is that if we wrap a product with an experience, we sell more of those products and we sell them more frequently. We sell them again and again. So that was another thing that we took for us. So we understood with Nestle that we needed a physical space to launch this project. We also knew that we needed to wrap it up in an experience. And with experiences, one of the big factors for us is being able to storytell. I know the presentation after us is about storytelling, so I'm not going to steal their thunder. But one interesting stat for us is that actually this year, for the first time ever, there's no retailer left in Marketing Week's top 20 storytelling brands. We've seen Marks & Spencer's just knocked out of that top 20. We've seen Morrison's, not unsurprisingly, slip from, I think, 40th to 120th. So retailers are stopping to tell stories, and that's high street retailers as well. There's no high street retailer in that top 20. And for Nestle, there's also just one FMCG or food and drink brand in there, and that's Guinness, which again isn't unsurprising. They tell a brilliant story. So there's a concern there. One, retailers aren't telling brand stories, and two, for us, food and drinks sector isn't telling brand stories. So physical space, brand experience, telling a good story. The other thing is we know that everyone's got a device in their pocket. So it's really important that anything we're doing in a store or retail environment, it connects to that consumer. Now, we know that those devices are allowing people at the shelf to suddenly change a decision. Actually, Google's latest data is that 1 in 10 customers in a store environment are changing their decision based on a recommendation. We know people are searching, they're price comparing, they're asking their friends on social channels. So it's really important for us that the work we do is connected and we understand those moments they're having. Now, within our agency, we've wrapped this up into something we call connected experience design. And it's understanding that entire user journey, understanding all of the many micro moments that our customers are having, largely led through mobile devices, and being able to deliver content into each of those moments. And we know that this year is going to be big for connected experiences. So back to Nestle. Well, Nestle set us, or with this connected experience design understanding, we had a really clear brief. We needed to do something in a supermarket environment that could stop customers in their tracks. We needed to create an experience and tell a brand story, and we needed to directly impact sales. So we began this journey with Nestle and Asda, and we knew that we had a wealth of point of sale materials in those environments already. And we know that point of sale is actually a really good place to sell product, to talk about the brand and to sell product. But we did have a challenge. This was across 3 key seasonal times in the calendar. We began on Halloween, went through Bonfire Night and up to Christmas, which was our kind of peak. So we had to cut through this huge amount of clutter in an Asda environment. The kind of default thing that we could start to look at was things like shelf wobblers and barkers and floor stickers, but didn't really give us a way to A, connect with the customer digitally, as I was talking about, or to tell this wonderful brand story that we needed to do with Quality Street. So we were instantly into, and I'm sure you've seen hundreds of these around here today, we were instantly into, well, it must be screens or signage to be able to deliver that. So when we started to look at screens, we hit the issues of actually, screens now have become quite functional, so instantly people want to touch them, that's the first thing. But also you expect to be able to get some information, interact, but it's quite functional information. It's taking you on your journey, or it's selecting a different size if you're in a retail environment. So we wanted it to be more special than that. The other thing with screens is that we've become really overexposed. Screens have actually been with us now for about 100 years. And then they're not interesting anymore. They're difficult to tell a good story, particularly out of home. It's different if it's a TV commercial in home. So we started on this journey of knowing it needed to be digital signage, but couldn't really be screens. We'd done some work with the projection guys outdoors, but typically, and Tom will take you through some of this, we're talking big outdoor experiences, and we're talking at night time. Not exactly ideal for a nice small retail environment that's really well lit. But we thought it'd be worth exploring, and that's where we got together with Tom and the team. So I'll let Tom take over from that point.
Thanks. So yeah, we're more commonly known for outdoor spectaculars or transforming an entire indoor environment using projection. In fact, you've probably seen some of our work before, whether it be at a show, product launch, TV, or anywhere really, apart from the one industry where we haven't done quite so much work was retail. And with the ever-increasing demand on the in-store experience and bringing the physical and digital worlds together, we saw projection mapping as an essential tool for this environment. So 2 years ago, we set out on a mission to change this. People normally associate projections with big images in the dark, typically on purpose-made screens like the one behind us here. But we're telling you now to think about daylight visible images, projected on or around products, seamlessly blending digital content with the physical environment. So if you're thinking about digital in store, consider this. If you follow the norms of screens, you run the risk of creating something normal. But if you go the extra mile, you might create something extraordinary. So, utilizing a whole new wave of projector technology, spearheaded by Optoma, and mixing Projection Artworks' unique approach to projection that we're known for, we created daylight visible displays out of the very smallest projectors. And I think at this point it's worth bearing in mind, it's not the projector itself that creates the daylight visible image, it is the application and the design of the system behind it that does. So we set about trying to bring some of these concepts of retail projection to life and showing what we could do on a smaller scale in store. The example up on the screen here is an actual Nike trainer. It shows a 270-degree video map around the product just using one projector. This is a tiny Optoma projector the size of the palm of your hand, but by concentrating that light output onto a very small canvas, we create an incredibly bright image. And this is classic projection mapping, as we'd call it, taking an object or an environment and transforming it by mapping digital content on top of it. And so this leads us to our central proposition, retail reimagined. When it comes to a digital in-store experience, we all know about LCD and LED screens. But now you can add to your mix daylight visible projection mapping. Anyone who was at CES would have seen the screens of tomorrow. They're curved, and I think interestingly, you can create a curved screen with projection now. The screens of tomorrow come in different shapes and some potentially exciting new formats, but we can create any shape screen using projection now. The screens of tomorrow demand smaller pixel sizes. Again, with projection, you can always make smaller pixel sizes by concentrating it onto a smaller area. And the screens of tomorrow might even be 3D themselves. And again, we can already make these with projection. But what we couldn't do before was scale these projection displays across hundreds of locations cost effectively. And that's what we can do today. So when we did our first outdoor mapping show, I think it was about 7 years ago now on the front of Waterloo Station, we had no idea quite where projection mapping would go, and it would find its way into every launch and activation globally. And the work that we're about to share with you is really the start of that same exponential growth of applications that you will find in retail. So we'll start with a well-known store. Last April, 12 months into our mission to change the digital landscape in retail, we found an interesting brief. So this was the challenge. create a giant, interactive 3D Fabergé egg, bright enough to be seen in daylight. And here it is on a bright day in Harrods' window there. And it's probably worth noting here, we don't advise on sunlight visible projections. Sunlight always creates a challenge, but ambient daylight is no challenge for a well-designed system. And then the canvas. Well, this was a 1.5 meter high egg. Actually, interestingly, in this case, we didn't use white. We painted it grey to improve the colors and contrast. And we used lighting across the rest of the space to fill the 18 meter window. So let's have a look at this video.
Hi, I'm Justin Halls from the projector company Optoma, and I'm going to talk you through some of the technology that's behind some of these demonstrations that we've looked at. So, that egg was pretty impressive. That was using 16 projectors. Each projector was 4,500 lumens. That gave 14,500 lumens per square meter, which is pretty bright. If you've seen any projection mapping on buildings, then this indoor projection mapping was over 400 times brighter than a typical outdoor projection, which is usually done at night. So here, this shows the relative brightness of different display technologies. LED screens are currently the brightest, and there are literally hundreds to choose from at this show today. People's perceptions are that projection only works well in the dark. And this used to be true. Projection does work really well in the dark, but it's not limited to that anymore. These screen technologies are limited by the technology that they use to produce the light. If you need an LED screen to be brighter, you can't just join two together to increase the brightness. You can with projectors. With projectors, there are two tricks that you can use to make an image brighter. The first is to use more projectors. The other is to make the image smaller to concentrate the brightness. Both of these techniques were used for the Fabergé egg at Harrods. Next, I'm going to talk you through some of the projection techniques that were used for this project. Okay, warping. Projectors enable you to display images on curved or irregular surfaces and then correct the geometry of that image. Secondly, we can tile images from multiple projectors. As I mentioned earlier, if we want to make a projected image brighter, we can make the image from each projector smaller to concentrate the light, and then join, tile, or blend the multiple images together to form one seamless image. This technique also increases the resolution of the image. You've heard of 4K TVs. A 4K TV has around 8 million pixels. This egg goes way beyond that with over 33 million pixels.
Okay, so we proved that we could deliver brightness and impact, and now we had to look at how we could roll out this technology across multiple locations. And a piece of software called Display Mapper does just this. Okay, so today we're happy to be able to share publicly for the first time the activation that Optoma, Anthem, and Projection Artworks worked on with Nestle. We'll just revisit that brief to look at it again. So the idea, create standout point-of-sale activation, engage consumers and drive sales, and remotely update the content for Halloween, bonfire night, and then on to Christmas. So the canvas, again, we're thinking outside the box, no screens at all here. So we created a new header which sat within the existing retail shelving system, made from foam board, durable, cheap, and safe. And I'll pass you over to Justin now to finish on some of these benefits here.
So, the first benefit of projectors is you don't need a screen. You can use any surface. That surface can be low cost, durable, or whatever your client needs it to be. The next trick of projection is you can change the shape of the image. It doesn't need to be a rectangular image like we're using today. It can very easily be any shape using a very simple technique called masking. Okay, next, we can map. This next trick is probably projector's party piece. You've seen buildings projection mapped. Mapping is projecting images onto a three-dimensional object. Projection mapping buildings is cool, but Tom's team have now turned their attention to mapping small stuff, products like sports shoes and watches. If you want to see what that looks like, you can come to our stand. Next, all of the projectors that we've been using recently and on our stand are all laser or LED. They don't have any lamps that need changing and so require virtually no maintenance. LED and laser projectors also produce very vivid colors. This and the no maintenance makes them ideal for retail environments. The last trick of projection is this. The projectors don't have to be in the same place as the image. Typically, you want the image to be where it can easily be seen. Generally, this also means the image, and think flat screen here, is in the ideal position to get damaged, tampered with, or in some cases stolen. With projectors, you can put all that expensive stuff that you don't want damaged or tampered securely out of harm's way. In this Asda example next, the projector is way above head height. So let's put all that together and have a look at the results.
When I walked down the aisle, the projector did catch the side of my eye.
It would definitely make customers buy more Quality Street because it's highlighting the item itself.
It is making me feel good. It was a pretty scene. It was pretty light.
What I really like about the projector is the colours that come off, the vibrancy, the moving lights and the little characters behind the windows and the sleigh across the top. And it brings it out. It's like it's not flat, it's 3D. It's very good.
So that's a quick preview of the work we did. So I get to tell you the lovely bits about was it successful or not. So the first thing to tell you is that we were very successful in terms of the implementation. The guys did a brilliant job. We rolled it out to 10 key Asda stores. We've set up the kind of modelling to roll it out to 350 key stores in the future. But we rolled it out to 10 stores. They were in very diverse locations. They were very diverse stores. They're different formats, different aisle sizes, different heights of projectors. The average store install time was 2 hours. We went through all of the health and safety and those big concerns that you can imagine come with doing something like this. We created 3 very engaging experiences, and we've tried to capture it in the video that we've shown you there, but I think you can almost imagine that as you are walking down an aisle and seeing lots of this standard kind of static point of sale talking to you, to suddenly see something moving that's very beautiful, it absolutely stopped people in that aisle. We considered with the content that our main customer is actually mum, and her shopping experience in Asda, as much as she wants to make it an enjoyable retail experience, actually she wants to get in that store and out of the store again. So we made sure that each of the kind of content stories that we told were in a very short amount of time. They were kind of 7-second average time there. That was done very effectively and the content was very beautiful. And the other thing was there was the 2 objectives for us internally. We needed to make sure that the customers absolutely loved it. which they did, but we also needed to make sure that the store managers and some very traditional store managers that aren't particularly driving tech innovation in their stores, they all absolutely loved it. They bought into it. Asda's described it as their most innovative piece of point of sale that they've ever had in any of their stores. They've told us it's taken point of sale to a whole new level. They've absolutely confirmed, and the forward-facing cameras that we had tracking the data confirms that people were stopping and engaging. But the big one for us, and definitely the big one for Nestle, was the main kind of launch that we built up to was Christmas. It's their absolute most competitive time, and it's also their absolute must-win time in their confectionery calendar. They have to make these sales at Christmas time to succeed throughout the year. So that was our real key objective, and this is a stat, bar my LinkedIn, which I popped it out on 5 minutes before the presentation, is a stat that we're revealing here first. Is that in the stores where we did two things actually. We launched the key projection content in the 10 stores I've talked about. In the other stores, we launched a standard static version of that, still trying to deliver a beautiful story of Christmas, Halloween or bonfire night. But across that 3-month period, we saw a 41% uplift in sales in the stores that were holding the digital projections. So this stuff absolutely works. That was the big one for us. We were confident it would deliver an experience. We knew it would be secure and safe, but would it actually impact the bottom line for Nestle and the retailer? And it did. So we've been really pleased with that. I think that's pretty much it from us. We'd love to hear any questions. The guys are on a stand B30, just down from there, and are very happy to demo any of the equipment, show you the absolute small format that they're developing this for. Yes, if there's any questions, we'd love to talk to you about that. Thank you.